You're watching One on One. We're talking with Terry Waite. Let's look at some of the defining moments in your life. What do you consider the key points that highlight the things you've done in your life so far?
Africa had a big effect on me, because I remember at times being in Africa and feeling acutely lonely. Not because I didn't have friends. I did have friends. I was married, and the same person I'm married to today. I had a small family, but somehow I could almost feel the spirit of Africa. The spirit of Africa is something that's very mysterious. You know, someone said about civilization, you begin with bare feet and you have contact with the earth. Then you put on shoes, you take yourself one step away, and then you cover the earth with concrete, and you're another step away. In Africa, you know, where you walk with bare feet, you're in touch with the mysterious spirit of the universe. And that can be awesome. And in some ways it can make you feel very insignificant and very lonely.
But you had a lot of ups and downs because obviously you were living on hope when you were negotiating hostages. There must have been some bright moments.
When I was negotiating in hostages, oh yes, there were bright moments. I mean, one of the things I remember, for instance, coming much later after Africa and going back to the negotiating days in Iran, for example. Now, the Revolutionary Guards were written off in the West. People said, you know, you could never get anywhere with them, never make any contact with them. And of course, when I went into the airport in Iran to try and seek the release of British church people who'd been detained there, I mean, the first thing you see were huge banners, you know, death to America, death to everybody else, you know. And, you know, you say, oh, well, nice cheery welcome.
The Brits were left out, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the Brits were left out at that point. Yeah, they soon got themselves into it, though, didn't they? Anyway, but then I was able to establish contact with Revolutionary Guards. And what we need to remember, I think, a lot of the time is that there are values in the Middle East, there are values in Iran, there are values in these people. There are ordinary people like you and I who have families, who care about life, who care about the future, with whom you can talk. And what do we do so often? We just go with a big stick and try and push people around and knock them over the head. And I think that's the wrong approach, totally the wrong approach. You know, what are we doing with our diplomacy? Where are we going with it? What's happening? I think we should look more seriously at some of these questions.
Who are the ones left you a little bit cynical about politics and politicians? If you care to name names.
I don't think I care to name names. I was going to say the vast majority.
Pick on the ones who passed away.
The vast majority, I would say. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to be drawn down that path because I don't want to speak ill of the dead. But honestly, you know, the shining stars, if I can put it like that, are really quite few and far between.
How do you regard the media? I mean, you were very much a darling in the media in the 80s. Everything was, they were following you around everywhere. And of course, then you disappeared for 5 years and came back into the media, but you've sort of eased out a little bit. But how do you regard the way the media handles issues such as the main news stories? Do you see it as a positive force or a problematic force?
Well, I've, again, at the time of this interview, I've just been watching American TV. It is a total, absolute nightmare. If you want my honest opinion. I mean, you suddenly just get into a news story and you get the first 3 sentences and bang. I mean, I know this from old. Of course, it's not changed. It's probably got worse, actually. I still think we are pretty well served in the UK, although we're slipping. We're not as good as we were. We're pretty well served by the services that are offered by the visual media, and certainly by the broadcast media,
radio.
And in particular radio. Yes, and in particular the World Service. Although in some ways that's changed in ways that I'm not too happy about. I just think they've been premature in cutting out certain things. But having said that,
BBC World Service, of course, was a lifeline for you, especially in the later stages of your captivity.
Well, it was. I mean, Terry Anderson had a radio next door, and I didn't. And After 3 years, I tapped on the wall for 3 years, you see, to get a message across. I tapped my name out. You can't use Morse code on a wall, so I had to use that laborious 1 for A, 2 for B. So then you regret your name's Terry Waite. You know, it's a long, long way down the alphabet. And after 3 years, I got the taps coming back, and it was Terry Anderson, Brian Keenan, and John McCarthy. They were all there. And I got those 3 names. And then they used to tap the news of the day. And I got the first news of my family. I got the news of the fall of the Berlin Wall. I got the news of the end of apartheid. I got the news that my Archbishop of Canterbury, he'd retired. All came through all at once. And it was amazing. And eventually I did get a radio, a small $10 radio. I was terrified because I thought, when the battery runs down, they'll never replace it. They did. They did replace it. And that was a lifeline. And my cousin, who's a broadcaster, John, he would broadcast occasionally, and I'd hear his voice, and I'd get messages indirectly from him.
You've used the power of radio in one of your projects to get the children of Africa
Absolutely.
and the youth of Africa educated using radio.
Yeah, well, the Free Play Foundation, of which I'm a trustee, Free Play Radio is a radio that you can wind up so it can be used at night, and in the daytime it has a solar panel. And ideal. And in Zambia we have a program whereby this little radio goes out to the bush areas where there are no teachers. Teachers have died of AIDS or they're not there. A village elder will gather children round a tree. The radio will be put there, and the education authorities in Zambia broadcast programs, and those kids get some rudimentary education. It's a great scheme.
Are you going to be focusing more on that charitable work as time goes on? Is that your sort of next
Well, I
step?
have been doing ever since I came out of captivity. I mean, I've been in cooperation with the One-to-One Children's Foundation. We're developing a big project which is going very well to combat AIDS in South Africa and provide antiretroviral drugs for mothers and babies, and to give children an opportunity to have a better life. Through Waite, an organisation I founded 20-odd years ago, we have a great deal of work throughout Palestine with young people who've been victims of warfare. Back home in the UK, I'm president of an organisation which provides shelter for the homeless, a home for the homeless, and work, not charity, so that people come off the dole, get into a good community, and get work on premises and begin to regain their own dignity.
It's using recyclable materials and so on.
Yeah, exactly. It's called Emmaus. It's been going in France for years, but I helped bring it to the United Kingdom in '92. And it's going along. So there are all these different things, and they take the majority of my time. I mean, I earn my living. I keep myself going by writing and lecturing, and then the rest of the time goes to these particular courses.
What in your life haven't you achieved that you really would like to?
Riches.
Well, better get working on that.
Honest answer, isn't it?
But yes, an honest answer.
No, I don't particularly make
Beyond
that.
the riches.
No, yes, I don't make that a goal. I really don't. I mean, I'm very fortunate insofar as I can maintain myself and my family, and superbly fortunate when you consider so many other people in the world. What haven't I attained? I would like... I always wished I'd been a bit smarter than I am. I'm really quite dumb in many ways.
But things you have an influence over, is there anything you want to do before you put your clogs up, so to speak?
I shall die in harness. That is for sure. I shall die in harness. There's no doubt about that. I would like to see the Emmaus communities, I'd like to see them established, a major community for the homeless in every major city of the UK. That's one goal. I'd like to see that organisation established in other parts of the world. It is in some parts of the world, but particularly in the USA, where there's tremendous need amongst the homeless. Everybody's got outside the USA has the image of a very rich, wealthy nation, a lot of very poor people in America, and a lot of people, needy people. So I'd like to establish it over here.
Now, you mentioned again work with the hostages, and that obviously has become a very strong part of your identity, the time that you spent in captivity. How would you like to be remembered?
I've often been asked that question, and I can genuinely say this: it matters not a whit to me how I'm remembered. What will matter, I suppose, more than anything, is that something that I've had a hand in, and you never do anything totally by yourself, it's always in cooperation with other people, will continue and flourish to the benefit of other people. And I suppose if you demand an answer to that question, you might say, well, if we're to write an epitaph, he wasn't all that smart, but he did his best.
Terry Waite, I wish you a long life. God bless. Thank you
Thank
very much.
Thanks.